LGT versus Kill to Death. This is the Join Dota America Season 4 Division 5 and Starter Playoffs. So both these teams played in the Starter Division this season, and they are now, this game will determine which one of them is going to go to Division 5, and which one of them is going to go back to the Starter Division the next season. We have Kill to Death and Late Game Tango, both teams that I played against this season. I believe Grumble got a chance to cast both these games.
I did.
Two very, really great teams, a lot of really nice guys, very quality players on both sides, so I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Of course, KTD has the world famous Icy drafting for them, so that's always, or AC I should say, excuse me, AC. So that's always fun. But both teams, again, have a lot of good players. Should be a very good game. With me today, I have Grumble.
Hello.
I mentioned earlier. Welcome, Grumble. Very glad to have you.
Hello. Glad to be here.
Hello, indeed. And then also, not going to be talking very much, but going to be running stats on a little insert side thingy. iTrueOgod. Hey, iTrueOgod. How's it going?
Hi. Good, thanks.
Excellent. Grumble, any talks on now our first several picks and bans? Now we've got our technical stuff working.
I was going to say, so much technical stuff. I haven't had a huge amount of time to look at these drafts. It looks like the dire side is something you would love. We've got Faceless Void, we've got Viper, we've got Nature's Prophet, and I can't remember if it was Kill to Death who was doing this, but I have seen a tendency in the JDL to go a little bit over melee when picking Faceless Void, which basically leaves you with very little to support Faceless Void from outside the chrono when he uses it. So I think they've got a fairly decent team to that. Late game Tango so far, I mean, it seems like they're trying to counter them in terms of team fight and in terms of push. Shadow Shaman and Tidehunter, and all the picks so far I think are very high tier, but also very typical of this tier, our tier. You know, the tier that we're at.
Sure.
And a Division 5s, a Division 4s.
Right.
You very rarely don't get Vipers and Faceless Voids and Shadow Shamans at this stage in the meta, which is fair enough. Make it a good game.
I'm not certain. I'm sure AC's team is relatively lane flexible, but I'm going to guess that this Nature's Prophet is actually going to look to go middle. I'm not certain, but that's what they did in the series they played against us. I know Dig, who is their sort of go-to Nature's Prophet player, and who is typically their mid player, very much likes the hero. Could be wrong. It may be looking to Viper mid here, and it may be an aggro try as well with that Viper. I think we gave him a little bit of that, and seemed to have caught on. It's in the fashion now.
Yeah, it's weird. It suddenly cropped up, and it's sort of totally alien to me. But it just relies on the fact that Nature's Prophet can split push with his abilities regardless of the item build, and then you just go for ridiculously early right-click damage right at the start of the game. And I've only played against it once, and we got absolutely shattered, and since then I've been formulating strategies. But looking at the lineup,
Nature's Prophet players who build orchids early and gank a lot do very well with early levels and a solid early farm. And his animation is so strong. He's an incredibly strong laner. He can dominate a mid lane, or at least more than guarantee his own farm.
you see them kind of, what's the build that I always see? It's Treads, then a mass Talisman stack, and then Blade Mail. And suddenly he is someone who can appear in your lane and right-click you, and you can't right-click him back, and that's what makes good ganks. Such a powerful dominator. I am not our resident expert on Invoker though. I'm imagining that the Forge. I saw an Invoker Venomancer matchup recently. You know, and you're dealing with a lot of heroes who use summons or wards to kind of out harass the opponent. And the Invoker's Forged Spirits, in my opinion, actually did a better job than the Venomancer wards. I'm going to be interested to see how they go up against Treants if it is a Nature's Prophet mid.
I mean, looking at late game Tango's lineup, I almost wonder if we're going to see a more teamfight oriented Invoker, maybe even a Crosswex Invoker. That would certainly have more synergy with their play. However, if they are looking for Invoker to be more of the right-click carry, then they might be and still head towards the Invoker.
I mean, arguably they've got. It depends how you want to play it. I tend to like to stack Lockdown or stack Disables, like so you would go for the Crosswex Invoker, the Earthshaker, the Tidehunter. But arguably they have their Lockdown,
right?
And their Invoker could go for
and
more.
And they could be looking him to be the AOE damage with
straw damage, yeah, straight damage. Straw damage? That is straw damage.
Straw damage. Straw damage is very potent. I don't think we should underestimate straw damage. KTD also, I know, really likes this Chihiro pickup. This is a very in the 3 or 4 KTD games that I've actually seen now, these are heroes I've seen them pick a lot. I know for a fact they're very comfortable on these heroes, every single one of them.
Now, Jakiro, you and I have had 101 arguments about Jakiro. So, and I do like Jakiro, but I always try and devil's advocate there. So why don't you do the good stuff? Why should people pick Jakiro?
Liquid fire. Basically it.
Oh, David, are you there?
I got nothing. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh, yep. Liquid fire.
That's it.
Just liquid fire.
That's pretty much. I mean, he's also kind of tanky for a support, but it's pretty much just liquid fire. Liquid fire is really good.
Just for the in-lane harass kind of thing.
And the ability to take towers. It's so quickly. I think it's so underestimated for its push potential. I mean, once you get 3 or 4 levels in liquid fire, if you're given a free lane, you can push a full tier 1 tower down in 2 minutes. Easily. Very, very potent pushing power.
And let's just add on to that Nature's Prophet, Viper. And yeah, it's Clink's pickup.
That's not someone who's very strong in the meta now. Still a very good hero. This Lycan Tango lineup is very interesting. It reminds me of sort of a lineup that I would have definitely seen maybe 3 or 4 months ago. I think it's still very potent though. They have a lot of lockdown. They have team fight. They have front line. They have damage. They have disables. So it'll be interesting to see how they use this. Definitely, I would say not as in the meta as KTD is.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that.
Although I will say, KTD does not have a great setup for the Jakiro stun in lane. And Lich, if they do choose to aggro, which I'm not totally sure what they're doing now, Lich will not add a lot to that. So he will be able to deny experience.
Well, a fair bit of nuke and some
What's the Viper?
And some lane control.
Do you want to try to switch back to in-game now so we can be on Dota TV?
Absolutely, sure, let's do it.
Alright, let's do that.
One moment please for everybody who's at home. We will
Hello?
be right with you. Hello, can you hear me?
Hear me?
I can hear you fine. Can you hear me? No, you can't. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I may have to actually DC here for a very brief second. Hello? Hello, hello, hello? Hello! Okay, I'm gonna have to DC from the game. Looks like we've got a 5-man going up on either side, so I'm hoping that they're just going to absolutely avoid each other and I'm not going to miss anything. And we should be right back in, I assure you. I'm just going to reassure David that I can hear him. The only problem is with me. David Stevenson. Hello, Davey, can you hear me? I can see my mic thing popping up now, so I'm assuming you can. I've turned on goddamn mute co-broadcasters, haven't I? Wait.
Gonna get to their lanes relatively slowly. There's a DD here top, maybe picked up by Invoker. It looks like KTD will be running that aggro try that we talked about, but LGT is gonna look to dodge it, moving the tri lane top. I think that'll make the Faceless Void fairly happy, and the Titan Hunter not. So I would say that's the laning configuration win from Grumble.
Hello?
Alright, try talking now, Grumble.
Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, my mute code broadcast.
I assume he said it is off. Hello, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
While we're getting all that technical stuff again set out with Grumble, we're just gonna introduce two teams real quick. I'm gonna start with KTD. Playing with KTD, we have A-Dub or AC himself here on this Jakiro. Code is on the Lich, and they're supporting in the aggro try. We have a mid Nature's Prophet played by Dig, as we sort of talked about some in the draft, and then carrying in the aggro try is Legless Puppy.
I really do apologise for this, guys. I'm going to try and get back into this game so quickly. The only problem we're having is had a bit of an issue with Skype. For some reason my Skype is bugged. Normally we would just use that and not have any problems. As it is, obviously we've got to try and come up with something with other Steam chat or
so much in the meta right now.
Hey, can you hear me, buddy?
2 times here in 6.1. Oh,
Can...
I hear you now, Grumble.
Hooray!
Yes.
Okay, cool. We good. We good.
Excellent. Well, I've already introduced KDD. Do you want to try to introduce LGT real quick?
Sure. All right. I'll go from left to right. So the mid invoker being played by Kooky. I love that name. Absolutely love that name. Next we've got the Clinks up on the aggressive tri being played by Mega Man, and I'll tell you what, I'll just finish that tri lane. We've got Fresh to Death on the Earthshaker, MCP Obid. I'm sure there's a better way to pronounce that name, but MCP Obid on the Shadow Shaman there, just getting some side lane pulls, looks like. And then finally, all the way down on bot lane, we've got Ridley on the Titan.
Excellent, thank you so much. And my first comment will be was the Viper aggro try as we talked about, and the Nature's Prophet mid as we talked about. So sort of what our guesses were there. LGT lid looked at odd, but go ahead and take a look at that bottom tier 1 tower for me, Grumble.
We're looking at wow.
Bottom tier 1.
Did somebody say liquid fire earlier?
Man.
Did someone say liquid fire?
Liquid fire. It's a good ability. It is a good ability.
I can see that, man. Wow. I mean, in a sense, though, I always feel on these safe lane tier 1s, there's a degree to which, once it falls, whoever you've got in that lane can actually farm a bit safer. If you keep the warding up. Just because the way the creep wave ends up. But still, that's a lot of gold to lose before the 3-minute mark.
Now, if I was KTD, I would be looking to rotate those supports top right now, because Viper can handle this Tidehunter very easily, and I think that's exactly what they're going to do. Exactly.
That's actually a very nice way to handle the situation there. If you find yourself in an aggro tri lane and maybe your void is a bit more exposed than you thought up against an aggro tri, you just try and rush the tower down, and as soon as it's down, you rotate the supports. It's nicely thought out.
Faceless Void is very comfortable as an off lane, 1 against 3, because he can get levels. It's very hard to kill him. He has a great escape. He has great damage block, and he's very comfortable in a defensive tri lane as a farmer. What he's not comfortable at is going 1-on-1. So I think it was an understandable choice for them to want to dodge the Viper aggro tri, but that really just made it where for KTD, it's a laning configuration that still works very well for them. That's the thing about Viper. He's just, at this stage in the game, as a farmer, basically can do anything you need him to do. Solo safe lane, aggro tri, defensive tri, he doesn't care.
Speaking of, he's getting some damage down on Ridley now. I mean, Tidehunter, not a bad person to go against him. Kraken Shell debuff is exactly the kind of thing you want to deal with a Viper.
See, I think if Viper is very strong against Tide, 1-on-1, I'd happily pick that, just because, yes, Viper can survive, but, I mean, Tide can usually survive, but he's very weak against kiting, and his ability to have a presence in lane, if the Viper orb walks correctly, I don't know.
I agree with you, but, you know, I'm a huge Viper fan. Everyone struggles in lane against Viper.
This is true.
Or something like that. Dig actually getting quite a lot of harass on mid as well. And
They're
Kooky,
really putting early pressure on this towers.
Kooky not really struggling so much.
Take a quick look at the last hits here. Clinks is at the top with 20 and 6, so he's tied with the Viper at 20 and 4. Mid is also very close, 19 last hits for both. But this Tidehunter behind the Faceless Void, 8 last hits for the Faceless Void, 5 for the Tidehunter. I suppose it's not entirely surprising considering that Faceless has support, but I think that's more just tied up against a Viper, and no one wants to be up against a Viper.
I actually kind of feel Faceless should have been getting more, just given that he's had the last couple of minutes with 2 supports in lane. And they should have been able to make some space.
Oh, excellent point out from the Nature's Prophet. Soul Ring purchased from him. And that's so far not been done at all in competitive Dota. An interesting build coming out. It looks to be rushing that Blade Mail along with it. What do you think about the Soul Ring on the Nature's Prophet, Grumble?
I don't play enough Nature's Prophet to really argue it, and Nature's Prophet is so up and down in the meta at the moment, I'm not really sure. Quick point on the Blade Mail rush, that could actually be building towards Power Treads. Because you can, of course, build Power Treads with either Ogre Strength, or the Mantle of Intelligence, or the Elven Skin.
Very good point.
I think that's probably what it is at this stage, and we'll see a Blade Mail fairly shortly, if I know Dig, a little bit after this, because you want to stack that Intelligence anyway. It's actually a very smart
I think the Soul Ring is actually a very interesting build. I kind of like it as I'm sitting here thinking about it. You're going back and forth to base a lot, you're getting intelligence items, so the Nature's Prophet is always struggling for mana, sort of playing it more like a Tinker, which is kind of how I like to play Nature's Prophet.
I think we've got Invoker rushing a Midas here. He's gone for some starting right-click items, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. Undeniable.
1,200 gold in the bank. Neither mid also going for a bottle, so that Invis rune.
Big push here top though. Tide looking to come in. He has Ravage. He's going to look to dive it. Faceless Void spreads out. Nature's Prophet all comes in. Tide Ravage hits Jakiro. Shackled Viper on the backline from Shadow Shaman. Clinks takes out the Jakiro, but the Shadow Shaman was killed first by Nature's Prophet. Another quick right click takes out the Earthshaker as well, and a 2-for-1 for KTD from that dive. Ravage was blown. No big ults used by KTD, mainly because no one has any big ults. Faceless Void is still level 4.
Are you thinking this might be another tier 1 quite quickly now for KTD?
I don't know. I think Tidehunter can defend this lane here with support. And I think Clinks is going to start rotating out. It's hard to say. Yeah, Nature's Prophet's moving out. He does pop some treants, but it's probably just going to farm the jungle.
Fresh to death, getting Nether Strike in the background.
Takes my Viper. Faceless Void's going in. He's doing a lot of damage. Doesn't get the stun, but Viper takes out the Earthshaker. Lich is there, throws in an Ice Blast. They're going on the Tidehunter. Sunstrike.
Sunstrike was a bit off there, but we forgive him.
Shackles on Viper, but there's no real backup here. Clinks does not have the early game damage to deal with this type of aggression.
And that health pool, I mean, that's what, 4 or 5 hits from Viper?
Yeah, depending on if he has mana for all of his orbs. Nature's Prophet, Treants just casually blocking a camp up here, picked up by Viper. But bottom is already pushing in, and this is one of the great things for Nature's Prophet about getting an early tower. It sort of forces everyone out of the sort of traditional laning phase. This means that he can start moving around the map and split pushing a lot more. Let someone else have that middle lane, because he's happy to just roam.
That said, has he gone bot once? I suppose it was just
no,
team fight
Jakiro was
going
actually
on.
down there, liquid firing. Liquid fire is good.
Oh, I've never heard of that.
Liquid fire off Jakiro. Job. Ooh, another very aggressive Sunstrike here from Invoker. But we just feels like he has the mana, why not?
I think, in all fairness, you are allowed to say he fluffed it a little bit though. And I think he did fluff it a little bit. Oh, a TP from Nature's Prophet joining in on the bot lane.
Coming down here. And with mana now being added to Jakiro and level 3 and that liquid fire, this tower is not long for this world. Yep, 3 TPs coming in. Tower is still very low. Might be deniable if these treants get hitting it.
Yeah, they want to back off it. 177, 171, 168.
Oh, they should have let the treants hit. That was a mistake.
Yeah. It was also a mistake to leave the treants sitting there hitting it. But that's some pretty fine micro in fence.
Yeah, I think KTD really has LGT on their heels now. They're running around constantly just trying to deal with this push. That's the thing about Jakiro. Liquid Fire has no mana cost. It's not. It's you know, effectively an orb effect. It can be auto cast, but it has no mana cost. So he can just basically add. Let's see, what is it? 5 damage at 30 damage. He can do 150 damage every 8 seconds to a tower or a hero in an AOE for free.
I always regard it a little bit more like a passive. Probably because the closest analogy I can think to it is Janada.
Yeah, I guess you could look at it like a passive.
It's not
chance.
a passive, just to be clear. it's definitively not. But
I would say that maybe a slightly closer. The problem is Janada can't be turned on and off. You can't cast it when you want to, which makes it a little bit harder to use, and you can't do damage against towers.
And it counts as the right click.
Geminated attack is fairly similar, but again, you can't choose when to use it. So I think I would look at it as an orb effect.
Yep.
But yeah, it is a unique attack modifier. It does not stack with other unique attack modifiers. That top tier 1 did fall to Nature's Prophet and Viper. Quick stat out here from iTroGod again. Yesterday when Complexity Gaming from Moon Meander played Jakiro, he had 6,701 tower damage in a 31-minute win. For anyone not familiar with traditional numbers, that's a lot of tower damage. Liquid Fire is no joke.
That's effectively 5 towers by himself, I think. So, something in those regions. 4 or 5.
That's about right.
And he probably didn't get the last hit on any of them because he's such a good support.
He's so pro. Too pro. All 10 heroes here on this mid-tier 1. I think LGT may be had kind of enough of being run around the map here, but they're really behind the farm. They're about 4k gold behind. Nature's Prophet already has a Maelstrom. Faceless Void has farmed up his Mask of Madness and is working towards Power Treads, almost has them. And they're not really doing anything either. They're just sitting here holding the push back, but not really able to go in. And it's understandable.
Meanwhile,
Viper's got the
Faceless
mech.
is farming.
I mean, they are ready to fight.
Nature's is
Prophet's
farming.
split pushing bottom. They cannot stand at a tower and not push it. They have too much split push, too much farm potential. Oh, interesting point out from True Jakiro that you running the mid position in that game.
Oop,
Right, a nice pass, just trying to hold this tower back. They may actually be able to get this one. Plink's doing some damage to himself. Plink's is like, hey, I have Faces Void, Chrono in on the Tide Hunter. Fissure does stop him, but they do manage to kill the Tide Hunter before the Ravage gets off. But Shadow Shaman goes for the Shackles, but is not able to take anybody down and dies himself. Viper's chasing on this Earthshaker. He should fall. One more Orb effect. Faces Void dives in, and the Viper passive gets him. And some more Liquid Fire down on this mid-tier 1. KTD is just rolling.
So much damage. Meanwhile, on bot lane.
Nature's Prophet pushing hard with that Maelstrom. I don't know if I assumedly he used other items to finish his Power Treads, but now he's going for an Orchid, so it looks like it's not going to be the Null Talisman Blade Mail build. It's going to be the Orchid build, which, considering their lead, I would say makes sense. They don't really need Nature's Prophet to go for Blade Mail and be sort of a early game fighter. He can actually start farming and ganking more as a carry that he was always destined to be.
Dire's middle tower is under siege.
Farming up the enemy jungle
Faceless
now.
Void.
Because why farm your own when you've got a Faceless Void?
It's true. 2 waves of tree beating on this camp here. Faceless Void's pushing in here top. Clinks is nearby, but so is Jakiro. They're clearly using Faceless Void as a bit of a bait here because they're happy to go in, although there are now 4 heroes for the Radiant down here. This mid tower. Invoker does manage to finish off the mid tower tier 1. So that's a little bit of gold to help catch up for LGT. But they've got a Dire team roaming down in here. Tide might have thrown down the Ravage there. Sort of in position, but his teammate teammates weren't very close. Invoker is, I don't know. These Sunstrikes aren't all missing, but they don't really seem to be that strategically viable. And he's got a big mana pool, but I can't help but feel like he should probably be waiting for more strategically meaningful opportunities. I don't know.
The vibe I'm getting, and I don't know whether this is fair, is a Quaswex Invoker playing Quas Exort. That's just a vibe. I might be totally wrong there.
Perhaps. He does have this mighty
so
boost
significantly
power,
better
so
Sunstrikes than I would manage, but possibly not the Invoker he's most comfortable on.
maybe so. TP's here to this middle tower. They got a lot of treants pushing on it, and it's gonna fall soon. These treants are gonna take out this tower. They need to figure out how they're gonna handle that. They're gonna go for the deny, and Invoker does get it. Well played against a lot of treants. Such a pro move, as Pyrian Flax just told me, and I can't help but disagree.
You and your Pyrian
just
Flax
TP
announcer.
stop and swoosh. Pyrian Flax announcer OP. That's an established fact. Again, just another casual Sunstrike on this Nature's Prophet safe lane. Up on top lane. I mean, even if that Sunstrike hits, which it didn't, but it could have. Let's say it did. What do you really gain there? Nature's Prophet just goes on with his life. I guess maybe just using it for a bit of extra scout, but
Yeah,
even then.
I'd imagine it's a good thing to do when you can, just for the sake of doing it. If you're in Fountain or whatever, and you're just sitting there.
Sort of on that subject, although as KTD starts to look on this Roche, they have dewarded, so there's no vision here for the Radiant. I guess suppose Invoker could always Sunstrike.
That's a
taking
good
that
point.
fast.
Sunstrikes to Roche.
Liquid Fire, also very helpful for taking Roche. Again, about
Will
150 damage.
you
although it's no
shut
good
up
damage.
about Liquid Fire?
Liquid Fire is pretty good. Just saying. This Roche is gonna fall. Thanks to Liquid Fire.
Are they going to be able to get top to defend? I mean, this tier 1 does have an awful lot of
Who's
health.
gonna pick
It
it
looks
up?
like they're trying.
Okay, Faces Void does take it.
Oh, and the
comes out.
mistimed Ravage.
Code is still gonna fall here though. Oh, does manage to get his ult off before he dies. The ult bouncing around. Gonna hit once on Invoker, but he should be fine. And that's a 2 for 0 for LGT along with the tier 1. It's a good win. Although Nature's Prophet is pushing this middle lane pretty hard here. Faceless Void's nearby too. Gonna be able to chrono if they try to go on him hard. Dig just backs up.
Does get the glyph.
Is able to draw the glyph. Yep, it's a good win. And he TP's top to push back against the Invoker Forward Spirits. On the subject of you know, casually using abilities, considering there's actually been some debate among some of the wave players, this Nature's Prophet seems to be basically spamming his ult just to push out lanes and farm more or less any chance he gets, as long as he's not in a mana situation. Some people seem to feel like that's a great idea. Some people feel like that's a terrible idea and it should only be used, you know, fights and to finish off kills. What's your opinion on the best way to use the Nature's Prophet ult?
I am not a Nature's Prophet.
So save it for the fight.
Save it for the fight from True. I can see that, to be perfectly honest. Like, and I can see situations where it wouldn't apply. Like if you've got a Bloodseeker, so whenever you use it, you can guarantee that you're going to be hitting any enemy hero who's dropped below 50%, and you see that they're all on below 50%, or 3 or 4 of them, or something to make it worthwhile. Or if you're trying to really farm the Nature's Prophet for the first 30 minutes of the game, maybe, just to be able, because I've farmed in the jungle plenty of times and had last hits stolen from me by bloody Nature's Prophet ults. It doesn't seem like the kind of thing you'd want to go for by default every game, though. I think I'd agree with Drew on that. Save it for the fight.
There comes that Nature's Prophet ult. Yeah, right. No,
yeah, sure.
Of course, there's always strategic situations you might use it, but this Nature's Prophet seems to be using it as a casual farming tool. Again, I think I'm more with Dig here. I think that it's really a pretty low cooldown. It gets down to 60 seconds at level 3, and it does a lot, which is sort of your primary job as Nature's Prophet, to keep the waves pushed out, prevent them from really ever being able to get to one of your objectives, and make all of their objectives constantly under threat. And it really does help out with that. I mean, you don't need to do it.
Sure, but are we talking casting it frequently when you see a good opportunity for the wave pushing, or are you talking about its off cooldown spam? Because you're dealing with vision a lot of the time. So one of the downsides to it is every single time you use it. Oh, never mind. Deal with this big action.
Ravage comes out from Tidehunter along with Jakiro. Shadow Shaman ults are already down on this tower. Viper's now rushing in. He has a haste to him, but he gets stunned. Lich Ult comes out. He's going to hit on just the Tidehunter. Did not wait for the chrono, although Faceless Void is able to mock up a couple. Viper has so low health. He might fall to these Shadow Shaman wards if they focus on him. They're trying to focus the Faceless down instead. Faceless and his does pop his Aegis. Viper is still alive. Clinks is very low. Faceless is trying to chase down Clinks, and there's a Nature's Prophet ult that comes out and kills him.
The point I was just going to make before that will happen, and good job taking the tier 1 there in a 2 for 2.
Absolutely.
But the other thing is, because you're...
Dig takes out the Earthshaker middle.
You're...
He now has his Orchid up, so he can go for those plays. He's going to go Shadow Blade. Sorry, go ahead, please, Grumble.
Because you're doing damage based on vision, you know, your whole team's global vision, it's constantly doing damage and taking last hits from everybody else on the team. So I would suspect that Nature's Prophet players would frequently feel one thing, and that people who play with Nature's Prophets would frequently feel another, because it does hurt your farm, particularly early game. If you're farming a camp and suddenly the Nature's Prophet drops, and it takes the creep that's worth 100 gold,
right.
the red satyr or something, that can be a real pain. It's not, I guess the point I'm trying to make is it's not free gold. It's not like, oh, I've got my ult and it's global and it does damage and it can get last hits, so why not use it? Right. If it hit every creep camp on the map, I'd say yeah, go for it. But if it just hits the ones that your carries are already farming, then there's downsides to it as a farming tool. Nature's Prophet.
That's a great point. No, very well said.
I like
Nature's
that.
Prophet, indeed. Well said, True. Well said.
Look at that face. It's
Nature's Prophet.
such a smug
Hold on,
troll
Nature's Prophet
face.
is pushing in bottom here, and Clinks is nearby. This might be the first chance that Clinks is actually going to have to gank this Nature's Prophet. But Nature's Prophet has a Shadow Blade, and Clinks has no detection. He goes for it, but he just Shadow Blades immediately.
There's a Sun Strike!
And now Nature's Prophet's going to try to turn around on him. Throws the Orchid and the Sprout. He's hitting Clinks. Clinks is dead. Check his inventory, mate. Gotta see if you need detection in it or not.
I think Clinks
Good effort, though.
could have right-clicked him back a little bit there. I mean, he had a great deal more health than the Nature's Prophet, and they're both decent right-clickers. Burning Arrows is a DOT effect, not a raw damage effect. So if you're talking about a quick 4-second firefight, burning arrows will never be more than.
Searing
Oh no,
arrows
sorry.
is not DOT.
I apologize. You're right. It's not DOT. It is a flat. It's the exact opposite of what I was just saying, basically. Never mind. Never
All good.
mind.
We all have those moments.
Never mind. They're searing arrows. It's clearly a DOT name. I object.
I think
call
you're
hacks.
confusing it, Grumble, with liquid fire,
Oh
which is a DOT effect. I'm not sure if you're aware of that.
God, you would so annoying.
Radiant's middle tower is
Nature's Prophet has this mid tier 2 very low here. It's a siege creep hitting it. Oh, but the tower, that's just the worst thing. When that creep, when the creep camp is like just too, oh wow, I was totally missed this fight. Shadow Shaman wards down, Faceless Void goes in. Lich Ult, again, a little bit late here. Needs to try to coordinate that with the Chrono, but it all works out. They should be able to clear up the Shadow Shaman wards pretty quick if they focus them, but now Invoker is in here pushing him back. There's gonna be a TP in from Earthshaker who bought back. Gets a nice fissure, traps the Viper. He's gonna die. They start out of death just so the Complete can't chase, but I'm not sure. Is that a win for LGT? It's 2 for 1 and a buyback, but they do kill Viper. Although Nature's Prophet is split pushing top. Yeah, I guess you can't quite say it's a win. But a good hold, all things considered.
Definitely a good hold. They got Chrono out. They got a BKB charge off on the Void. You know, there's lots of little peripheral things that'll add up if they can just hold the high ground, even aside from how many died and where. And yeah, they're trading. Like I think their mid game. The difference between the two teams now is closer than it has been all game, and it's been getting that way steadily since about the 5-minute mark, I think, where KTD actually took quite a significant lead.
After they sort of KTD's gold lead sort of peaked at 8,000 at one point around 12 minutes into the game, and they actually had it back up to around 6,000 around 17 minutes, but it's actually really fallen apart. KTD's gold lead already above 10,000, right around around 12,000 now. But yeah, you're right, they are getting some map control back, and that's really a big part of it.
And they can win team fights. You know, it's
absolutely.
Like, just as an example, I know that it is what they're going for as well. It's something to keep an eye out for. Tide's going for a refresher. All they have to do is hold out for that. By that stage, Void's BKB will be on 4 seconds, and that's 6 seconds of lockdown on the enemy position 1. It's huge.
And he can use 1 to stop Void during Chrono, and 1 to help in the fight after the Chrono.
It's gonna be interesting. I mean, obviously, gold and experience aren't irrelevant, but the actual just natural skill progression of LGT has given them the ability to hold this game a little bit more.
I do want to say, well, the action sort of paused for a second here. I think KTD really has to be applauded for their excellent warp vision all around the map. They have their jungle protected with observer wards, and they have, in the places they've been pushing, they have a ton of sentry wards everywhere just to see if Clinks is going to be trying to sneak in and catch them off. And they have another observer ward here, checking around the jungle. Really great ward vision on Roche and at the runes. Really great ward vision from AC and the rest of his support team here from KTD.
So I agree. I like it. I don't think it's perfect. Like, specifically, I like the fact that they've got them up and they are making a definite effort. And the sentry wards I love. The observer wards they had up in their jungle, to me, weren't given the best vision. They weren't got any entrances to the jungle. You know, it was basically somewhere between the tier 1 and the tier 2 on the top lane. That doesn't help you if your carry is trying to farm the lefternmost creep camp. Yeah, it's just... Maybe there was a reason for placing it at the time. Didn't see that, but
yeah,
I would rather see it.
Their oldest ward is actually already expired.
Yeah, I noticed it just expire, and I think maybe different situation. But if it was
yeah.
for the purposes of protecting the carry in the jungle, you want to get it on the areas which enemies are definitely going to go through, and they might not
Clinks
go
is
to the
going
lane.
to go on this Nature's Prophet again. He has dust now. He's going to wait, I think, for pushing into the way, but Nature's Prophet just backs off.
And just a quick clarification for anybody who's wondering, this is a 2-game series.
Tide goes in bottom. Ravage coming up from Tidehunter. They do manage to shackle. Oh, Faceless Void is very low as well. These Shadow Shaman wards could kill him in Chrono, and they do. Viper gets his ult off, but Lich falls. It's 2 for 3 for LGT.
And up on top.
Took top tier 3 and managed to take out the range Rex. So even though it was not a perfect fight, I still think that's a win for KTD. Excuse me. But how you see?
I do think that they're lacking a bit of coordination going on this high ground. They've got the lead and they've got the Nature's Prophet, so they can go for these 4v5 fights, and if they lose it doesn't matter too much. But if they didn't have Nature's Prophet, if they had any other hero and they went for a fight like that and Void died that easily, they'd have lost. That would be huge.
No, I'd agree.
That would be throwing the game. And Clinks, as you say, does have Dust now. It's going to be increasingly difficult for Nature's Prophet to make plays like this.
I think it was a mistake for him on his part not to go for the Nature's Prophet top when he had him. I mean, this Clinks is really quite effective at handling this Nature's Prophet if he goes for it, and he seems to be a little bit more hesitant than he needs to. I know he died the last time, but I mean, he's got to check his inventory. He has the tools. He can get the execution off. KTD going for another Roche here. It's going to be picked up by Faceless Void again. Do you think that Faceless Void is the best Aegis carrier on Dire here, Crumble? In my mind, it's Nature's Prophet.
You know I don't think.
Or Viper.
You know I don't think for Faceless Void is a good Aegis carrier. Regardless, you're just baiting me. No, he's not. He's a.
I'm just doing banter. This is our job, Grumble. We're just trying to have a discussion. You know, keep it light.
Discussions.
No? Their decisions suck, Grumble. They suck. Is that what you think? You think they suck? Is that what you're going for?
That's better, yeah. Faceless Void, he's just such a one-hit pony. You know, like you get the chrono up, you can do a huge amount of damage, and sure, he's a great right-click carry anyway, and he's obviously going to do work with the Aegis. He'll come back twice. He's got bash. He's got all kinds of great abilities for doing a lot of damage. But he won't have chrono again. He might have all his mana back, but he's not going to have anything to spend it on. I'd probably say Viper at this stage. I think it could do more with the 4 than with the Nature's Prophet on the split push, even if Nature's Prophet is a bit more risk now.
And it's worth pointing out that Viper does have Aghanim Scepter, so cooldowns are just not a concern for him at all. So having that Aegis, I think he's a great Aegis carrier, especially with Aghanim Scepter. He's also a lot tankier than Faceless Void. Like, yes, obviously Faceless Void is more important here at this stage of the game than Viper, so that's not disputable.
But that's because he can do his chrono. If he goes in and does his chrono,
right,
and then he does a decent amount of damage and he leaves, he's actually not that important anymore.
It doesn't take a lot of work for them to kill Faceless Void. So it's not like they're spending a lot to kill him, and then it doesn't matter because they have the Aegis. At that point, if he's going to die, they're going to kill him easily. Viper, however, with Corrosive Skin, that's an extra life of Corrosive Skin to put out. Yeah, I'd agree.
I gotta say though, LGT are increasingly beginning to look dangerous to me. 2 Blink Daggers now, Necro 3 out on Invoker, and we had a nice stat coming up from True that's a 53% win rate item for Invoker. I don't know. They've got to be able to
damage here on this top barracks, but does not draw the rotation that he was expecting. All heroes still bottom, but the top barracks is getting pushed. Okay, now Invoker does make his way top. He's just trying to be cautious. This is not where he throws his game. Farming Nature's Prophet comes out. I
think there's some quite nice balancing game mechanics here to make sure that the top and the bottom wave rarely, or you've got to orchestrate it to make them get to the base at the same time. So they've actually got quite a good opportunity here where they should be hard split pushing the high ground on 2 lanes.
No, I agree.
But they're neither.
I think that was KTD's chance, really.
You've really got to watch for them because they were waiting there for a long time and it was never quite the right time, and it wasn't their fault exactly. It was just they hadn't got it set up that the creep waves would be in position.
See, I think that may be an unintentional effect of the change that was made. I believe it's 6.79 to change the nature of the creep waves and the moving
Ridley.
Nature's Prophet goes in on Tidehunter.
He's okay.
If he had gotten the Sprout off, he would have had enough damage to kill it. I'm not totally sure why he didn't use it.
Well, Clinks was just walking into the fight area as well.
I see, okay.
I don't know.
I think he had the time to take him out, and he could not Ravage with that Orchid on him.
Whoa! Divey Chrono!
Viper throws out his ult. Shadow Shaman ult does fall. Faceless Void's gonna die. He has Aegis. I got Aegis, guys. It's fine. Got Aegis. But in the meantime, Viper's dead. And Faceless Void dives in here, but he's on his own now. No backup.
Under ward.
Shadow Shaman hexes. And he's dead.
That was a very strange choice from Void. That seemed to me to be the perfect opportunity to get the hell out.
Nature's Prophet does finish off top barracks though. So again, I think we could say a somewhat troubling team fight, but the Nature's Prophet just covers it up by forcing objectives.
Yeah, and it doesn't entirely excuse it either. It was a bad call. The fact that you had a split push operation going on and there was someone else on the other team, and overall you won because of the big match. Had he backed out there, they would have got the top ranked and had an alive Faceless Void. And we've all done it. But
I agree.
But
I think frankly LGT is in a position now where they're far enough back in farm, and with a full lane of racks down, it's going to be very difficult for them to come back either way. Not impossible, but very difficult. But I agree, a misplay. Although he does go on this Tidehunter again. Gosh, and now Klinks does have the Dust, gets shackled, and the Invoker Sunstrike, the infamous Invoker Sunstrike, saves the day and finishes off the kill on Nature's Prophet.
See, now you get tier 2s. 1, maybe 2 tier 2s. And then suddenly the only difference is, yeah, okay, Elena Rax, but we're getting to the stage where Elena Rax
Void is going to have a chrono up in 4 seconds, and there is a Lich ult now. It's a lot easier to get these Lich Faceless Void chronos off when they're pushing as opposed to when you're pushing. But we'll see. Do you have a nice quick wave here?
Although it's much easier on the high ground than it is at the tier 2, so I'm wondering if they're going to try for it here.
Ooh, Tide walks back into
they are!
Stun. There's the Lich Void. Oh, but only manages to hit Tide once. Earthshaker uled himself and came back down with a ult. Faceless Void gets killed walking high ground into Invoker Ice Wall. Excellent Ice Wall from Invoker.
Again,
3
straight
heroes
past
right
those
behind
voids.
it, all that opposed damage. This Void is... Oh, and AC takes the fall here too. They seem to be just sort of casually walking uphill when they Faceless Void had already done that, but again, Faceless Void being very aggressive here without his Chronosphere.
This is a kind
I'm
of...
not so sure about that.
Kind of they need to realize that actually the LGT team, especially when those wards are down, have a great team for taking out Void, because that's 100 little points of damage. You're not going to backtrack all of them, and until you've got a couple of items up so that you can ignore that damage, you can't ignore that damage.
Well said.
Big
Prophet
pings.
is back alive.
Big pings on the
DD
DD.
here.
Shadow Shaman did just walk
There's
straight
the DD
past
rune,
it.
guys.
There we go. There we go. Both
Nature's
teams actually.
Prophet's in the area. He needs to be careful. Dire has vision. He picks it up. Nature's Prophet's gonna go for him. No, he just goes for the Ancient. Oh, that was a Shadow Shaman. That was an easy Shadow Shaman for Nature's Prophet.
That would have been fairly.
Oh, very interesting point from True. He actually Jakiro was the one that used the old Yules on Earthshaker. I guess in an attempt to prevent getting an Echo Slam off, but also prevented the Lich Ult from bouncing. So kind of invalidated that somewhat useful Lich Ult from Faceless Void. Although Lich did throw it on the Tidehunter, who was already being focused down by Faceless Void and very much separated for the most part, at least, from the rest of his team. But yeah, I think it was actually a great Yules for Earthshaker. That was perfect. Dodged the Lich Ult, forced everyone to group around him, and then came down for that big Echo Slam.
Quick point. They really need to buff
Please.
the range on sentry wards. Look at this. I mean, this one probably didn't deserve to get it anyway. It's not in quite the right place.
Oh, you're talking about the bottom rune?
But
that's not that close.
That's not that close. But really, if they had the same range as observers, it would be well within range.
Well,
And I'm not suggesting they have that
I
range, but my gosh, Sentry's range is too small in my opinion.
I think part of it is that at low levels of play, dewarding is very... You know, one of the things that Nature's Prophet over 10 CS per minute. That's high, guys.
One
That's
every
a lot
6
of CS.
seconds. Or more than one every 6 seconds.
At low levels, dewarding is very hard. I know for me, as I've improved as a player, being able to deward or know where enemy wards are has been one of the things that I've improved with the most. You know, early on, it's basically impossible to guess where the enemy wards are. You just put them in random spots. But you're much better at watching enemy movements, figuring out, okay, if they move there, that means they saw me move here, etc., etc., etc. So I think at very high levels, dewarding is already very potent. And were the range to be buffed, I think it would be very, very hard to keep wards up. Really, anybody. But I think at low levels, sentry ward ranges, I agree, is much too small. It's very hard to deward when you're still trying to figure out the minutia of where the wards are. So yeah.
It's tricky. I guess most of the ward play I see these days has to do with hiding it in sneaky spots in trees and 100 other things, so it's deward. I don't know. Maybe some other clever change. I just feel at the moment that they're not quite good enough at what they're supposed to do. Like you basically have to know exactly where the ward is, and then you can get it. But
I think that's the idea. I mean, for good or for bad, I believe that is intentional.
Minutia.
Minutia. Oh, that's what makes the game beautiful, Grumble. It makes the game beautiful.
It's true. It really
They're really forcing out this bottom lane.
It really do.
A lot of treants walking down there.
That's true, I suppose.
And this is a very good point.
Late game's always gem. I was going to say maybe they should have some kind of uber sentry ward which had a slightly bigger range for more gold, but that's
only
the
there was some sort of large sentry ward that you didn't have to pay money to use except for once, and you could carry it around with you.
Maybe have it offset some
Man,
way
it's
by
really-
like when you die you drop it and the other team can pick it up.
Yeah, oh, that's a good mechanic. We need to write to Valve right now.
Oh my god, they'll pay us millions.
Millions. They were waiting on Roche earlier, but Roche is still not up. Although not long now. Just about
Yeah.
30 seconds. But they don't know that.
Let's have another look at this gold graph, and I've got a horrible feeling I know the way it's going to go. Oh, I'm actually
Ooh.
relatively surprised.
Check that out.
What on earth
yeah.
is going on? Now,
Hold it
what's,
back to 10k.
what's surprising me here is not that they managed to battle it back up, because as we've said, the team fights recently have been going a little bit 50-50, but it's just, look at the map control. All 5 of the LGT heroes are, Stick of True Sight.
Stick of True Sight.
I
I
like
like that.
But all of the LGT heroes are in the base, farming, 1/3 of the creeps they farm are mega creeps, 20 gold and rubbish, and yet
Yeah.
the most recent changes on the gold graph is a straight line, horizontal, equal farm between the two teams. What? Split up
It's starting to dip
KTD.
back down though.
Viper does not need support to farm. I don't know. It does look like they're getting decent coverage, but you don't let leads go in Dota. You press them. That's
No, you know,
that's the
I
way you
don't
win.
disagree.
Mm.
This
Rose up.
there
This
he
Viper.
is. Yep, and they're gonna walk in and check him. Ping, ping, ping.
I'm wondering if Legless Puppy is a reference to Viper. Because you and I have argued before over whether Viper has legs. I am quite clear that
Clearly
he
does not have legs.
I'm quite clear that he has
I'm
vestigial
sorry.
legs. But anyway, let's
He
deal with
does
this
not have legs. That's just
upcoming Roche
ridiculous.
fight.
Sorry. Oh, big Ravage on 3 from Tidehunter. It's not how the refresher, but Jakiro stun comes out. Licho bounces just on the people in the pit. Hits Viper, who does manage to fall, but Nature's Prophet dies as well. And Voker caught in the Chronosphere, getting beat down by Faceless Void, but LGT is coming to back him up here. Shadow Shaman finds the Nature's Prophet, who had bought back, and Invoker buys back as well. Nature's Prophet doing a lot of damage here. Big spread on 2. Mega Man gonna fall to the Nature's Prophet. It's a triple kill for Dig. And Viper is on the cliff.
Good point.
And they go back in and finish Roche.
That was hilarious. That was the what's it called, the cold beam thing from Invoker.
The cold beam.
The
thing.
cold beam thing.
You've cast Dota before?
I have.
Is this your first time?
Damn Invoker. I don't like him. Go Anti-Mage. You rock. But yeah, no, that was absolutely hilarious. And good job. It was kind of well played by KTD because they arranged themselves and picked the fight so that they could win. So it was a Void Chrono on the Invoker. That was huge. They wouldn't have been able to win the fight further
Honestly?
over to the right without the Invoker.
Honestly, as Invoker throws out his cold
Cold
thingy,
cone thing. Cone of cold.
stop. Cold cone thing.
Is it Deafening Blast? Is it Deafening Blast?
It's Deafening Blast.
It is
It
Deafening
has
Blast.
nothing to do with
Cold
cold
Blasterino.
anything.
Cold Blasterino. That's
Blasterino.
that's the one.
Trademark that. No, but I honestly would say with that fight, it was 100% due to the fact that Nature's Prophet has a global teleport and Invoker did not. Because I think LGT was in a far superior position to win after they had killed the Nature's Prophet. Just way superior. And both Nature's Prophet and Invoker bought back, tried to help in the fight. And Nature's Prophet got there immediately, and Invoker did not. Now, obviously that's part of Nature's Prophet. Not trying to say it's OP, but if those two heroes had been reversed, and if it weren't for that one fact, I think that was a huge win for LGT. But that's why Nature's Prophet's a good hero.
And now we're going to see another 10 minutes of passive farming. Hooray!
Clanks does pick up an MKB though, so he's going to start really hurting.
That's
What do
really
you
gonna...
think this next item for Clinks is?
Let's have a quick look-ski. What did you say, crits? Crits can't
Nothing
hurt
wrong with
anyone.
crits? Crits or butterfly?
I'd probably go crits. He's got to be the damage, right? I mean, like, if people are hitting him, stuff's gone wrong.
Oh, and a good point for True, going back to that Roche fight, again, lots of ifs. Viper was on the cliff, obviously wasn't able to contribute a lot, and that's
Okay.
why I think they were in by far a winning position, but Nature's Prophet's a good hero. Clinks is sniffing around in the jungle some. I'm not sure, again, I think Clinks needs to be looking for heroes, looking to gain this Nature's Prophet more. I mean, that's why he's here. That's why they drafted him. I know Nature's Prophet, I'm not totally sure who's going to win at this point, if there is a fight. But the whole purpose of drafting the Clinks was to stop the Nature's Prophet from having free split push, and he hasn't gained it once.
We do have all ults up, all 10 heroes in a very small area.
Scotty on Clinks is also not bad. Scotty, for anyone that's wondering, does stack with searing arrows if it is auto cast, but it does not stack with searing arrows when manually cast. Just a FYI.
Also a good point about evasion being disabled in Chrono.
That's a very good point, yes.
Radiant's middle tower is being attacked.
True strike.
And they have 2 lanes pushing in.
I've got the whole camera zoomed way out here and I still can't keep these heroes in shot.
I'll zoom out myself.
Oh, there we go,
Oh,
BKB!
Faceless Void dives in. Just hits Invoker, though. Doesn't have the BKB and is blocked by Tidehunter, but Tidehunter ravages twice to block the rest of his team from coming in. Jakiro yules himself. Viper trying to do damage, but he's very low, falling to the Clinks. Clinks did take him out. Nature's Prophet able to kill the Earthshaker. Viper respawns. He got the Aegis this time. And I think this may be GG.
This is GG.
Radiant's bottom barracks is
Well played to both. I mean, it was great play there by the LGT. Everybody who didn't get initiated on by Void, they basically cleaned up the back lines of the of the KTD, but they couldn't kill them quite quick enough. And then Void finished his meal, turned round, and had them for dessert. Yeah, I did see that. True, I did see that. I true strike.
I like that.
When RNG is on your side.
Is this the 2-game series? I wasn't sure.
Oh no, that's a very good
we
point.
need a
It's
winner.
the playoffs, isn't it? It must be a
Yeah, I
best
don't
of
think
three.
it is. I think it's just the 1 game. Duke! Calling you out, dude.
I love these guys. They're awesome.
They're great. No, these guys are both great.
I
don't
yeah.
think it's a 2-game series. Could be wrong, but I
You
think
think it's
that's
just
it.
1 or 3?
I think it's just the 1.
Just the
Could
one?
be wrong.
Madre de
I
Dios.
think it's just the 1.
Madre
Let me
de
ask real
Dios.
quick. I'm gonna ask real quick before I shut the stream off.
Okay, yeah, you do that.
1 second.
Fingers crossed we get more. I think we got a good relationship with these guys now. So we'll be seeing more of them regardless, which I'm looking forward to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. 2 very, 2 quality teams and 2 just teams full of really nice guys. Nope, best of 1. That's it.
Best of 1.
Well, final thoughts, Grumble.
Sorry, I'm just letting True know.
Oh, sure.
Well, I mean, excellently played from both teams. I think, I'm gonna straight honestly, I think KTD were relying a little bit too much there on the Nature's Prophet. I think if Nature's Prophet
They
hadn't
really
been
did rely on him.
quite as good as it was, if he hadn't been able to be all over the map quite like they were, I think the team fight that they were going for wouldn't have been quite strong enough, because LGT, mid-game, late-game, were holding their own. I could see a comeback in the works. It was never going to be easy because of the lead that KTD had, but they had it in them. And in terms of late-game skill, just pure skill, not who won or who had the advantage, I'd have to give it to LGT. I think they did a great job, whereas the KTD squad by the end of it were kind of just, as you said, they had enough of a lead, they could afford to chill out a bit and just pull through it, and that's not a terrible thing. But not the highest level to play, and we see that in the experience spread as well. Nature's Prophet is level 24, that's great. The supports are actually lower than the supports on LGT. Viper is, up
Way
there.
below Invoker.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I was very impressed with both
Although I will
teams,
say this,
but
I
it's one of the
totally
ones
agree with what
where
you're saying.
I can point to the
Good,
to the winner and say there was an awful lot you guys could have done better there as well.
I will say this. I'm not quite put it quite as strong in some ways with you, but overall I really agree with you. But the fact of the matter is, Nature's Prophet had 787 gold per minute. That's it, to some extent. If the rest of your team is decent, and Nature's Prophet gets 787 gold per minute, then you are screwed.
Very true. Very, very true.
Ban
And great job.
Prophet when you play KDE, guys. Ban him first. Just do it.
Just ban Dig.
You'll be fine.
Just ban Dig.
Dig's a good player, but ban Nature's Prophet. Ban him. Do it. If anyone on your team says, no, we don't need to do it, what we're going to do is say no. Just ban the Nature's Prophet.
Yep. Ban it.
Yep. Just ban.
Ban it. Yep.
Just ban. Alright. Well, it was a good casting with you, Grumble. Thanks so much.
Cheers. GG's. And I think
Goodbye to everyone on
I
the
actually
stream
might keep
and,
my stream up just for some pubbing if we're going to do that now.
Let's do some pubs.
Alright. Ciao, ciao.
Bye.
So yeah, anybody watching on stream and or YouTube, thank you very much for tuning in. Please do follow or subscribe.